Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is dustinkreis, and today we are going to do a game discussion. We're going to talk about this game right here, Metal Gear Solid 4 for the PlayStation 3. Finally got to this one, and I was really looking forward to this one, and it did not disappoint at all. Probably the most cinematic game. And that gets thrown around a lot, especially when you talk about like Xenosaga and things like that. And Xenosaga is no slouch. I want to get back and play those games again sometime. But this one, man, Kojima could have stopped with this game because I haven't played 5 yet. But Kojima could have stopped with this game, and it would have wrapped up everything perfectly. And I can see why a lot of people hold this as their favorite Metal Gear Solid. It's a fantastic game, but it's so hard to recommend people to play because you really, with Metal Gear, you have to play the other games. You have to play Metal Gear Solid. You have to make 2, 3, the PSP games. You really want to have the full story before going into this one. And, of course, I haven't played Ground Zeroes or The Phantom Pain yet. But, since this one came out before those two, and I had it, and I just figured go ahead and do this one and experience this, and then kind of go back and get the nice little coda that is Metal Gear Solid 5. That some people say. Some people really hate Metal Gear Solid 5. But I'm actually looking really forward to it. Not so much from the story perspective, because storyline-wise, I just really don't know that Metal Gear Solid 5 can do anything to outpace this one. This game is like 70% storyline and 30% gameplay. And that sounds really bad. I know that sounds really bad. But it's actually an amazing experience, especially if you're like me and you're working through all the Metal Gear games kind of in rapid succession. You do want to see how this story is going to finish, and for me it finished in a very satisfactory way. It ties in all the other games, it brings back characters from the other games. Sometimes the characters feel a little shoehorned into the game, especially sort of a minor character in Metal Gear Solid 2, Johnny, or Akiba as they call him. His expanded storyline in this game, it kind of feels a little shoehorned and a little weird. But at the same time, Metal Gear Solid stories always have that bit of weirdness in them. So, really great stuff how they brought back characters and shown the progression of the storyline. Completely redeeming a character of Raiden, who was just trashed after Metal Gear Solid 2. And, somewhat unjustly, but there was also some valid criticisms of the character. But kind of in a very horrific way, they redeemed the character. And it was nice to see him get a good send-off, which it's clear. Well, that's right here. Which actually, I'm really looking forward to getting to this one, Metal Gear Solid, or Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, because I hear it's just a crazy action game. And Return to Mother Base Alex, he told me that this one kind of explains more about Raiden's transformation into obviously a cyborg character. Which, if you've played Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2, the cyborg ninja is always kind of the coolest character in the game. So to make Raiden the cyborg ninja for 4 is really kind of an awesome thing to redeem the character. But anyway, the storyline picks up in 2014. So much like Back to the Future, this is now in the past. It was once the future, but now the past. With a much older Snake, due to a genetic anomaly in his creation. Because if you don't know that Snake is a clone of Big Boss, then, well, I don't know why you're even watching this video. Due to a sort of a genetic failsafe in his makeup, he was actually made to age progressively faster than a normal human being in order to keep him out of enemy hands. So you play as a much older Snake who you can really see the ravages of time on an old character, especially when you do a lot of crouching. He tends to favor his bad back. And it's cool to kind of see those little animations and things like that. But a much older Snake in a much different world. The AI from Metal Gear Solid 2 has basically taken over everything, and in one way has sanitized war, but in another way has made it sort of even worse because it's just perpetual now. The entire globe, the economy of the entire world is based on war now because of how sort of clean cut this AI that controls everything has made war. It's turned it into a real moneymaker because it's just perpetual. And basically it's Snake trying to sort of finish what he started in Metal Gear Solid 2, which is to take down the Patriots AI, stop a certain character, which I don't know how secretive it is about this certain character. If you haven't played the games, it's kind of a spoiler for the early games, but the big bad in this one, stop that person from reaching their goal, which is to basically take over the world by taking over the AI of the Patriots. And if you don't know who the Patriots are, well then... See, that's the thing when talking about the story of Metal Gear. The games are so interconnected, and the storyline is so dense. You really just... For a starting off point, you really just have to start with Metal Gear Solid. And some people will tell you to play them through chronologically, and that might be good also to start with Metal Gear Solid 3. But from a gameplay perspective, once you play 3 and then like Peace Walker and things like that, and especially the Phantom Pain probably, it'd be really hard to go back to that early Metal Gear Solid on the PS1 style of gameplay. So my suggestion is to play them through release chronological. So start with Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, and then just continue the series that way. And then you'll see the evolution of the gameplay and things like that, and kind of experience the story how other people experienced it. Like with Star Wars, I would suggest people start with episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then go back to the prequels, because the prequels are kind of inconsequential until you get to episode 3. But we're not talking about Star Wars. But anyway, Metal Gear Solid, yeah, it's really hard to recommend Metal Gear Solid 4 until you've played some of the other stories or other games, because the story is just so intertwined. Some people, I guess, have started with 4 and then decided to go back and play the other ones. I think that'd just be awful. But I guess do it however you want. But I would suggest playing it through in order with the releases. Gameplay-wise, a real evolution of the style in Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. I played Peace Walker before this, which in terms of releases, Peace Walker came out after Metal Gear Solid 4. So I was kind of used to the controllable camera and the sort of the new mechanics, like walking while crouched and things like that, and how that helps you stay hidden and things like that. So maybe not as revolutionary in my eyes as it probably was when people first played Metal Gear Solid 4. But I felt like the stealth in this game was a lot more forgiving. And that might be because of Snake's new camo suit in the game. It might make it easier to hide and things like that. But I really liked how Metal Gear Solid 4 handled its gameplay, because I never felt pigeonholed into a certain path. Some of the older games, especially like Metal Gear Solid 3, I felt like if I fucked up the stealth, I had to reload my save or just wait until I died. Metal Gear Solid 4, if you get caught, it definitely makes things harder for you. But at no point in time did I ever feel like it was a hopeless situation, like I felt in a lot of the earlier games. Especially, I tried to replay Metal Gear Solid before playing this to sort of refresh on the storyline a little bit, and I just couldn't handle how touchy the stealth was in that. And if you got caught, it really was just basically a game over in a lot of situations. Metal Gear Solid 4 gives you a lot more options, and that might make the game feel a bit easier, but at the same time, it kind of almost makes you feel more badass because you can handle varying situations relatively easy. It wasn't until I got to the later part of the game with the not so much the big geckos, but the little geckos, the guys that had like 3 arms that would patrol around areas. Those things were just utterly annoying, and basically, if you get detected by one of those, you're going to be fighting a metric shit ton of them. And while if you have a grenade launcher, you're fine, but it's just super annoying how persistent those little things are. But fighting the big geckos, I actually really like the big geckos in this, which the geckos are sort of a biomechanical, sort of a smaller biomechanical variation on a Metal Gear. Sort of, you can see how the technology sort of evolved out of a Metal Gear to create these things. And I think they're hilarious because these sort of hulking, big, like, horrific-looking mechanical beasts, and when they're running around, they make the sounds of cows, which I read that Kojima thought that was a good idea because it would lull soldiers into a false sense of security that they make sounds like cows. Whatever, it's the usual Kojima weirdness in these Metal Gear games, but I really liked the design of them because it never seems to like fully fit together, and it would probably end up being like this horrible monstrosity. If we ever made like a biomechanical machine in real life, it would probably look something like that because it's very aesthetically unpleasing to look at, and I think that's the reason why I like it, because it's so creepy looking when they're running around. But yeah, the gameplay, stealth in certain sections, amazing boss fights, the ability to handle the situation if you get caught not playing in stealth. The different locales are really awesome. Like starting off in the Middle East, I think that was very prophetic by Kojima because, you know, it's 2015 and we're still dealing with strife in the Middle East. Very prophetic that the game starts off there. There's a really cool section later on where you go to Eastern Europe, and it kind of plays like a James Bond style game where you have to follow around this informant and not let them see you, but at the same time evade the bad guys. I guess it's not really a secret anymore. This game's been out for how many years, but Liquid's army that are patrolling the area. Really kind of a tense situation because you don't want anything to happen to the informant, but at the same time you have to kind of protect your own skin as well. So really kind of an awesome little bit of gameplay. Amazing boss fights. Amazing boss fights. The real standout being the sort of the final boss fight of the game. If you've played all the other Metal Gears, there's so much behind that boss fight that it's hard, even though it feels kind of hand-holdy in a way, I guess, or maybe quick-timey in a way. There's so much like storyline emotion behind the boss fight that you can't help but be impressed at how cinematic it is. That's kind of the thing about this game, though. Like, the cinematic approach to it and everything kind of overwhelms the gameplay in certain aspects. There's still a fun game to be had here, but if you're playing Metal Gear Solid 4, you're playing it because you love the Metal Gear Solid storyline and you want to see how it wraps up. That's the real push for the game. Graphically, this is when did it come out? 2008. You know, this is an almost 8-year-old game. So, you know, for the time, it looked amazing, probably. Now that we have the PS4 out and later PS3 games that look even better, the characters do look a little waxy, maybe a little stiff in their animations, but at the same time, you can't help but be impressed with the game. It does look really amazing, and for its time, it was probably a showstopper. I kind of remember when it came out and people talking about the graphics of Metal Gear Solid 4, because this was kind of the first big PlayStation 3 game. I know Devil May Pie just did a video and said as soon as this game came out, he went and got a PS3, you know. So, I mean, it was kind of a big deal back in the day. But now it's just a very good-looking game. It's not, like, mind-blowing because we now have PS4 graphics and things like that. Audio-wise, I mean, the voice acting in the Metal Gear games are pretty amazing. Sometimes, you know, people... I like David Hayter as Snake, but sometimes his voice just gets a little too comical for me in the situation. And I mean, sometimes the storyline calls for that comedic approach, but I don't know, sometimes like when you compare like Metal Gear Solid 1 to like Metal Gear Solid 3 and then with 4 with him being older, I mean, he kind of went full Christian Bale in a way, you know. Whereas, you know, Batman Begins, Batman's voice wasn't that ridiculous, but by the time you got to Dark Knight Rises, you know, everyone made fun of Christian Bale's Batman voice. So I kind of feel like Snake's voice went that way as well. The music, I really love Old Snake's theme. I love the slowly plucked guitar. It reminds me a lot of the theme from The Last of Us, the soundtrack. I love that they pulled music from all the different games and threw it back in here. There's a point in the game where you go back to Shadow Moses, and that opening theme for Metal Gear Solid, with the best is yet to come. I absolutely love that theme, and when it started playing as I was exploring the new HDified Shadow Moses, it really made me want them to go back and do a remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 with the Metal Gear Solid 4 engine / gameplay. I think that'd be amazing. But, you know, really brings back that very nostalgic feeling you have for these games and the storylines in them, and it just ties everything together so well. Yeah, so really, I mean, it's hard to not recommend this game, but at the same time, if you haven't played the other Metal Gears, stay away from this one. You really want to play the other storylines, because this one just ties it all together so well. I got to the end of the game, you know, after the final credit roll and you save your game and it starts over at the title screen. I was just like, man, what an experience. Especially if you get like wrapped up in the world and everything that's going on. I think, I mean, it is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. There's no two ways about it. And maybe Metal Gear Solid 5 is diminishing returns. I don't know. I'm not there yet. But it's in no way going to ruin my affection for the series. I think Metal Gear is probably one of the... It is one of the great narratives in the video game medium. Usually we talk about RPGs when we talk about video game narratives, because action games, they have a storyline, but they don't really have storylines like this. And it's Metal Gear is one of those games that I think everyone should try. I do think everyone should try it, because if you're like me and you like great storylines, this has one of the greatest storylines in the entire medium. No doubt about it. And it makes me very sad with the current state of Konami, because they own all the rights to all the Metal Gear stuff, and Kojima's out on his own now, and after the no-compete clause ends in December, you know, I mean, Konami's not going to get rid of their series. Like, they're not going to give Castlevania or Metal Gear or, you know, any of the other series, Silent Hill, Suikoden, they're not going to give these series to other companies to make games. So it probably means we're only going to see like pinball machines and shitty mobile games in these franchises, and that's really sad, because I from what I've read, Konami is pretty much done with like big budget titles, and Metal Gear is one of those games that not only deserves but kind of needs those big budgets to really do what it does. So I think effectively we have seen the end of Metal Gear, which Kojima kind of said Metal Gear 5 was going to be the last one. And he might have saw the writing on the wall with Konami anyway. So, but anyway, it's kind of a sad thing to see the series go, but there are so many games in the series to play, and I still have Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain to play. So, and plus I have the MSX games. I went out and got the HD collection of Metal Gears, Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker, just so I could play the MSX versions of the games. So I'm really looking forward to going back and seeing how it all started. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. Plus, I got Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. I keep wanting to say Metal Gear Solid Rising, and that's not right. But really looking forward to getting to all of this and continuing in the series. But I think I'm going to take a break. Some new releases have come out, and I want to kind of focus on them. And then, you know, just wait for the Phantom Pain to kind of drop in price a little bit, and then finish everything up. So, anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.